Baradan Orkonor Veitenar Haragararan Otmogor Buten Harabarador. The sun has fallen down between the rocks into the wet arms of Oceania, Poseidon and Neptune. Ramaran Horgon Buton, the rocks behind my back are emitting strong heat as they were polished by the brazen sun the whole day here on Kali Limanes, south coast of Crete, on the beach of Heros Pavlos. As I have said, today there was an unmistakable proof that the elementary gods and the Olympic gods and goddesses have accepted the offering of Bergon, the skull of the goat that I have placed on a large rock on the beach and surrounded it by a circle of exquisite gems, stones polished during millions of years by the waves of the Oceanos and Oceania. And today, after 2 days of strong winds and big waves, the skull of the goat Bergon has disappeared, has been taken into the realm of the elementary forces and the Olympic gods. Oh, because? Why? Because logically, if the mighty waves were able to carry away the skull of Bergon, they would have been able to carry away the little gemstones that were surrounding it. But this was not the case, which immediately made me feel elated. And I fell down to the sand and thanked the great gods and goddesses of Minoan times and of Greek times here in the Mediterranean. Baradon, Orkoton, Mahatan, Vaitaran, Oskvomohoradar, Butanor. And of course, I have not forgotten the navigators of the Ur-Slavic Tartaria fleet that came down here from the stars hundreds of thousands of years ago to start the great quest on the shores of Minoan Crete later on. And then I exercised vigorously all the bones and the muscles of the Minoan, early Greek, Slavic, Tartaric body of Heros Pavlos, so that I can offer the gods and the elementary forces and the goddesses to goddesses the living blood and living sweat and breath of a human being on the altar of the whatever. On the altar simply, yes? The altar, it is your body. Your body is the altar of the elementary forces because you are made of them. And as I was leaving, I was considering, well, what should I now put on the altar instead of Bergon's skull that has been already carried away to the Black Hole Committee of the Central Galactic Committee, where they are considering the future fate of the planet Gaia. And then I have put my brow on it, my hot brow. It was still pulsating vigorously with the hot blood of physical exercise. And I prayed to the elementary forces of the sea, of the rocks, of the sky, of the setting sun, of the soon-coming star and the double-horned moon. I prayed the strong words of power, saying, like, oh, there must be some secrets. What I say is what I say. Yes, the ritual was spontaneous. Nothing of it was prepared, preconceived. Only the systematic bodily exercise, which I've been doing since 40 years, was running on. And then I discovered at the end, because the rocks are so warm here at late 12th of January, setting sun, if you lean with your back on the rock wall behind you, it's really warm. And strangely enough, I laid my head backwards and discovered that it fits completely, perfectly into a cavity that has been washed out of these rocks through millions of years. And it fits exactly my skull as I lean on it on 2018 in the January 12th. And I must have remembered the book of my favorite writer in my 20s when I was reading Kurt Vonnegut, the book of Bergon, the Slaughterhouse 5, and above all, the Sirens of Titan. In Prague it was, before I left for Germany. And 1977 I must have read the Sirens of Titan. And there you can find the secret message of the meaning of universe. It's one starship is traveling across the whole galaxy, and they bring a message to the other end of the galaxy, a very important message, and they have a breakdown. And they have a breakdown near to our solar system. And they need a specific part, they need a part of titanium shaped like this and that to put it into a superdrive, hyperdrive, accelerator, to continue the journey. So they have a committee and they discuss what should be done. Let me show you the beach also. At least you have something. This is the second beach. This is the second beach. I was not on this one because, as you know, I have two beaches here. As obviously, and you rise up in the hierarchy. You have seen that when I came to Heraklion, I was immediately initiated to the 55th grade of the Heracles Masonry group of Heraklion, which was founded by the Venetians in the 16th century. Nevertheless, since the time I have some privileges, and this is one of the privileges. I have two beaches, so I exercise on this beach because, you see, obviously it is shaped in a kind of half moon, which makes it compatible with the moon that shall soon rise above the coast of southern Crete, here below Mires, Cali Limenes. As you know, the great project is the Reconquista. For the whole winter, I plan here a Reconquista of the southern coast of Crete from the rather confused harangues that a certain Paul has let loose here when he landed after an occurrence in Damascus, which I have written some other places about, and this has had a rather confusing consequences for the whole of European civilization. And I have been asked by the Central Galactic Committee to compensate. Then everything must be equalized and compensated. So I now do my own harangues here, as you hear. And this is known in the chronicles of the Gaia planet that are being kept in the Akashic records of the Galactic Committee under the Reconquista of Kali Limenes by Heros Pavlos. So you will hear more about that. So this is, I hope, enough for the explanation of the beaches. So let me now continue with the Kurt Vonnegut story, which is a fantastic story. I recommend it to everybody. I was reading it in Prague in 1970s. After I read these books and wrote an endless paper. I seem to be doing this again and again. I wrote an endless paper on the book of Bergon by Kurt Vonnegut. And I didn't know how I shall finish it. I was simply fascinated by his humor, by his existential, absurd conclusions in the book of Bergon, or was it was called, or was it a part of the Slaughterhouse-5 story? I don't know it now. So nevertheless, by that, on that occasion, I have read also the Sirens of Titan, and this is where we are here, and this is where it relates to that moment where I was standing, leaning on the warm volcanic rock that was washed through by the storms and wind and waves of this coast for millions of years, at least, to be formed into this shape, which fitted perfectly into the back of my skull and was heating me pleasantly. And I realized there is a plan. And I tell you why. Because as in this book by Vonnegut, this foreign strange civilization that was entrusted by the intergalactic committee to bring a message from one end of the galaxy to the other galaxy, and has this breakdown. I have already described that, and this breakdown happens in the vicinity of our solar system. And then they have a meeting, and they discuss what shall we do. There are several possibilities. Unfortunately, we cannot synthesize this metal alloy here on the ship. And we do not have a spare part. I don't know, there was a mistake. Also, the super races also make mistakes. They didn't pack the spare part. To return back is impossible. The hyperdrive is out of order. And to go forward, obviously, also impossible. And can't be manufactured here in the space, in the outer space. It must be manufactured in certain conditions on a planet. So they looked at the planets of the solar system, and they saw our planet Gaia is the most suitable for intelligent life. So it was decided, we shall make a plan. We shall initiate this civilization. They have humanoid apes there that can be manipulated genetically and mentally via some Space Oddity 2001 style. We can manipulate them and start this civilization going. And then we shall hibernate, and the causation chain will be taken care of by the robots. And after all, after very, very many strange happenings on this planet that must be taken in, a certain lonely man in the Minnesota, or what was it, in his garage, he would repair his car, and by this he would be welding a certain part of his car, a motor was it, or a front door, and the welding machine would fall down or what. This all was prepared by an enormous civilization that could, guide the chain of causes and effects through millennia and millions of years. So they were so advanced above us that we cannot imagine what they could do. Ne? And so after all, this piece was by chance manufactured, or was a mistake actually, and by this man in Minnesota, and fall down to the ground. And in that moment, snap, the meaning of the civilization of our planet was fulfilled. An automatic robotic machine retrieved this part, put it on in the hyperdrive, and shop, snap, they go away to the other end of the galaxy. They didn't care at all to stop here and explain, or at least say thank you or something to our civilization, because it was irrelevant compared to the importance of the message that had to be transferred to the other end of the galaxy. And so we were left simply by, nobody knew about that, only the reader of the book, obviously. And there you have to think, all this big stuff, like the Chinese Wall or the First World War or whatever, your own identity, your own first kiss, everything is in this big chain of cause and effect with certain side effects, so that this man can produce the little metal alloy part, which then is put into the hyperdrive and off it goes. There is no other meaning for our civilization. But at least, you say, okay, you understand. You understand that this could be, so you read to the end, and then they really come, they arrive to this place, other end of the galaxy, and they pass on a certain container which contains this important message, and it is opened by the committee of the other side of the galaxy. They read it, and it says, "Greetings." Okay, so and that's the end of the novel, Sirens of Titan, and I was reading it now in the 70s in Prague, and a very nice place with my. She was not reading it. She could not read English. I was reading it. She was working with it. Obviously, repeats itself. I repeat all the time the same. This is an endless repetition, as Nietzsche has discovered it. I always work vigorously on some obscure text, where the girls with whom I live in an apartment, they work, so to say. But I have other qualities, obviously, otherwise they would not do it. So now I work rigorously also on some texts. This time they are mine, because I have grown older, and it is obvious that I cannot work all the time on some foreign text, because this does not motivate the nice girls anymore. They want to see results after 50 years of diligent work or something. So I work on my own text on my own. And as I put my head into this kind of spaceship-like position, leaning backwards on the volcanic rock now, I had this feeling, it fits 100%. And then it occurred to me, it may be so, that this whole my trip here to Crete and all which was before, my birth, school, love, sports training, the Russian invasion 1968, and so on, the war on Iraq, which I experienced here on Crete in March 2003, at the beginning of it, which brought snow, by the way, very strangely. And you can name it, whatever, the big travels and the new cars by Tesla, whatever. Everything centers down into this moment when I put my head, especially its rear part, where the important automatic functions are stored in the small brain, into the rock. And it fits like a helmet of an astronaut. And so I felt, now this is going to snap, and something was done, some energy was pumped up into my small brain, and I will become what? Not that what I was training for all the time. I will become superhuman. I will become a super writer, and I write this novel in a way that it completely changes the history of mankind, and the result of it will be that what the Central Galactic Committee is intending. I don't know yet what it is, but I am already, discovering it step by step. So, this is it for today. From Heros Pavlos on Kali Limenes on the beach during the Reconquista of south coast of Crete, as you have already heard. And I say, as I rise up slowly to the hotel, I see the only window which is open is mine, which suits me. And say Kali Nikta, good night.